Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Danish Dadaboy, and welcome to this webinar hosted by Empower Education Consultants. Today's webinar will be focusing on the recent concerns that students have had pertaining to the US as an education destination. Through this webinar, we are hoping that we would be able to burst some myths and delve deeper into some facts about the scenario for international students in the US. And this webinar will be conducted in English and Urdu so that the information can be understood more clearly across the board. So we hope that through this webinar, we will be able to shed some light on your relevant concerns. So firstly, the most important thing to remember is that there is no official ban on Pakistani students seeking to study in the US. So if you have your offer of admission, your I-20, then you can file your F1 visa from Pakistan. Okay, so that's very important to remember that there's no official ban on Pakistani students. So that's the first thing. Secondly, the recent revocations of student visas in the US, I'm sure everyone must have heard about them. And, obviously reading about such stories then, creates a bit of a panic amongst potential, students who are interested in going to the US. So we'll be delving deeper into that later on. But just to shed some light on it, those revocations had a compelling reason behind them. It wasn't at random that those revocations were taking place. So we'll shed some light on that later on in the webinar. Lastly, it is pertinent to remember that the US serves as one of the major markets for students from Pakistan. Currently, there are about 11,000 students in the US from Pakistan, and any official ban on Pakistani students would lead to a significant financial loss for universities as well. So it's easier said than done that Pakistan might be facing a potential ban from the US. There are a lot of sips between the cup and the lip, so we should not panic as of right now. And we should just take things step by step and analyze what's going on before jumping to any conclusion. So to delve deeper into all of this, I would like to request our Chief Student Officer, Mr. Amir Rafiq Bhatti, to shed some light. He's been recruiting, students for the US for over 15 years now. So, Amir भाई, पहले तो मुझे ये बताएं जरा कि यूएस की मार्केट को आप कैसा देख रहे हैं अभी और फ्यूचर में भी। क्या आपको लग रहा है कि कोई पोटेंशियल बैन लग सकता है पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट्स पे फ्यूचर में जाके, या ये सब आपको ऐसा लग रहा है कि मिथ्स हैं? आमिर भाई, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है। आपका माइक म्यूट पे है।
Didi, thank you so much taking me on board. As everybody knows that कि इस वक्त जो करंट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है और जो उसकी पॉलिसीज हैं और जो भी वीज़ा रिवोक्स हो रहे हैं और वीज़ा में जा रहे हैं, उसकी वजह से रूमर्स तो बहुत सारे बन रहे हैं कि स्टूडेंट्स को वीज़ा डिनाइल की सूरत में जाना पड़ जाएगा। मुझे नहीं लगता कि ऐसा कुछ होगा। इसके बरक्स के CNN की रिपोर्ट के मुताबिक 500 स्टूडेंट जो हैं वो रिसेंटली अपना वीज़ा जो है वो रिवोक करवा चुके हैं यूएस के अंदर। और सुनने में ये भी आ रहा है कि जहाँ मतलब न्यूज़ होती है वहाँ आपको पता है मिथ्स भी होती हैं और रूमर्स भी बहुत ज़्यादा होते हैं कि आने वाले वक्त के अंदर स्टैम्प वीज़ास के ऊपर भी मतलब करंट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन जो है वो एक्शन लेगी जो ओपीटी के ऊपर लेगी। तो आपको याद होगा जब लास्ट टाइम ट्रम्प की गवर्नमेंट आई थी और उस वक्त भी हालात कुछ ऐसे ही थे। उस वक्त भी आपको याद होगा कनाडा की जो ऑफिशियल इमिग्रेशन वेबसाइट थी वो क्रैश डाउन कर गई थी। पर मैं और आप उसके विटनेस भी हैं कि ट्रम्प एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में सबसे ज़्यादा वीज़ास भी मिले। तो मुझे ऐसा नहीं लगता कि ऑस्ट्रेलिया और कनाडा वाला हाल होगा। हाँ, उन स्टूडेंट्स के लिए प्रॉब्लम ज़रूर होगी जो स्टूडेंट्स गैप ले लेते थे, जो अपना सेमेस्टर डेफर कर देते थे। अभी एक चीज़ और सुनने में आ रही है कि बच्चा सर्विस है वो मोर देन 3 मंथ्स के बाद जो ऑटोमेटिकली टर्मिनेट कर दिया जाएगा। तो डीडी सच लगता नहीं है कि कोई ऐसा ऑफिशियल एंड जाए इम्पैक्ट होगा। हाँ, इसके बरक्स हमें ये जरूर देखना है कि हम वेट करें। जैसे लास्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में हमने देखा था ट्रम्प की कि कम से कम हमें 2 सेमेस्टर्स जो हैं, आने वाला फॉल इनटेक और आगे स्प्रिंग का इनटेक, हमें थोड़ा वेट करना चाहिए। हमें थोड़ा देखना चाहिए कि पॉलिसीज किस तरफ जाती हैं, ऑफिशियल पॉलिसीज तो ज्यादा रहते हुए काफी टाइम हो गया, तो मुझे लगता है कि हमें थोड़ा सा वेट करना चाहिए। एटलीस्ट 2 सेमेस्टर्स हमें या 2 इंटेक्स को टाइम देना चाहिए, देन वी विल बी एबल टू एडवाइज स्टूडेंट। हाँ, ये जरूर कहूंगा जो करंटली स्टूडेंट्स इस वक्त यूएस प्लान कर रहे हैं फॉर फॉल और फॉर स्प्रिंग इनटेक, प्लीज डू नॉट फाइल योर वीजाज। उससे बेहतर है कि आप अपनी अल्टरनेटिव कोई डेस्टिनेशन देख लें। उसके बाद ही पता।
आमिर भाई, आपकी बीच में आवाज़ जो है वो डिस्टॉर्ट हो रही थी, बट जो आपने अभी गुफ्तगू की है उसका जुज़ यही है कि आप यही कह रहे हैं कि एटलीस्ट 1 से 2 इनटेक्स जो हैं फर्दर स्टूडेंट्स जो हैं थोड़ा इवेल्युएट करें, और वेट एंड वॉच की स्ट्रैटेजी अडॉप्ट करें देखने के लिए कि वीज़ा सिचुएशन कैसी जा रही है। बट ऑब्वियसली इस वक्त कोई ऑफिशियल बैन पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट्स पे नहीं लगा हुआ, सिचुएशन आइडियल नहीं है, बट इट्स मोर ऑफ अ वेट एंड वॉच पॉलिसी। तो थैंक यू सो मच, आपने इस पे लाइट शेड की। अब आगे बढ़ते हुए इन द वेबिनार, as I had mentioned initially, that visa revocations that were taking place, that are taking place in the US, we would be shedding greater light on that. So I have one of our senior counselors here, Mr. Shazian Dadaboy, who would be able to provide more insight as to why these revocations are taking place, what are the changes that the Department of Homeland and Security is looking to implement in the US, and what the actual on-ground situation is. So Shazian, if you can just chime in, with your 2 cents on this whole scenario.
So, if we take into consideration the recent policies that have been implemented, we've seen that the U.S. citizenship and immigration.
Shirzian, I can't hear you. Your voice is gone.
U.S. government can evaluate.
Shazan, can you just please can you just sort out your internet issues, because it's very difficult to understand because your voice is breaking up consistently. I'll just circle back to you till you sort these issues out. In the meantime, Jahangir Ali Shah is one of our senior counselors as well, and he's done his undergraduate in economics, so he understands the economic situation, astutely with regards to the tariffs that were initially placed by Donald Trump, and then he gave a 90-day pause, and then apart from China, where he's actually increased the tariffs. So how do you see this whole scenario, Jahangir, playing out with regards to the US economy? Because we've seen reports from Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan stating that the recession chances have increased to about 60 to 80%. So what are your thoughts on this, and how this will impact, if the US goes into a recession, how will this impact international students seeking to find a job in the US later on?
Firstly, thank those very valuable inputs. So yes, I agree. Going to the US in particular And the international student experience is obviously, one of the very big decisions that we as students make. And obviously, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And job prospects, obviously, is one of the things that, is at the very forefront, if not the most important thing that students think about. So, international students from the get-go, they have a lot of things to think about, especially because they have a lot of things more to prove than somebody else who is not an international student. And now when you think about, economic uncertainty, or when you think about, any structural change that is happening in an economy, that adds to the, number of things that we have to think about to get to that level where we want to, contribute back in any way. So the two things that is at the forefront of all of this that's going on, the changes, is not just the tariffs, but also what is going on with the funding of the universities. So repeatedly, like you mentioned, Mr. Danish, in news articles and all over social media, you are hearing about the cutting of funding. So what does this imply for students, and what does this mean? Well, firstly, we have to think about, what does this tariff policy and what do these economic changes mean? It means that there's a shift happening in where the production is happening. So, like you said yourself, that China is the only country in which the tariff policy is, going ahead. Whereas with other countries, there is a 90-day ban. Not a ban, but there's a 90-day pause actually with going ahead with the tariffs. So, which industries are at the forefront of this policy? And for students, international students in particular, the advice is to think from the end in mind. Like, where do they see themselves? In which sector do they wish to work? What do they wish to study? And how are the changes that are going on economically, politically, going to impact those industries and those sectors that they wish to end up working in at some point? And then think about what that means for job prospects. However, the message that we as counselors want to give is that the picture is we shouldn't ever look at things too negatively. We should always embrace challenges. Therefore, as an international student who wants to achieve their dream of getting into a prestigious university, who wants to think about those kinds of job prospects that they have mapped out for them, they should ask themselves now that what is my priority? Where do I see myself, in the next couple of years? And how can I actually just overcome whatever hurdles there are? So, with regards to the tariffs, my advice would be to students, think about which are the industries or which are the sectors that will be most impacted, by these economic changes, and then think about what that means for the job prospects that are related to whatever they want to study, whether they are at the undergraduate or graduate level, for example. Similarly, with the funding that is going to universities, if a student hypothetically is considering different universities where funding is now, a big question mark, or there is that uncertainty, then they have to think about, how did they see their student experience a couple of months before, when these funding issues were not, that talked about, versus now. If, on campus jobs or research opportunities were something that they were planning quite extensively, or something that, they were looking quite forward to as a student at whichever university they are going to, then how does this impact that, and what would that mean for their university life, for their student and professional journey, if there is that uncertainty with these kinds of opportunities there. So now the responsibility of international students is to research even more than they were, prior to these kinds of uncertainties and these policy changes coming up. Additionally, they have to be more focused. They have to be more focused with their finances. Hypothetically, when there is economic uncertainty, then the fees and the tuition and the living costs, all of those things that you think about as students, all of those are things that you have to start, reconsidering. So that would be my advice to students. Similarly, how do you see yourself, developing in a destination that you want to study at? If there are a lot of changes that would likely we have to be considered, then think about those and see how you can reduce any chance of or sort of minimize the chances of there being changes to what you had planned for your student journey and so on. Now, after these changes and these economic kind of like uncertainties are propping up. So that would be my contribution. I hope that was helpful.
No, thank you so much, Angi. Thank you so much for shedding light on this important matter. And I'm hopeful that, a lot of students, who had this query, who had this concern that, what would happen if the US were to face a recession pertaining to the job market, what would happen to them? So I think this would, really be of benefit for them. Shirzian, are you back? Are your internet issues sorted? Are you good?
Yes, is my
Okay.
voice audible?
Yeah, it is. So, Shirzian, tell me, with regards to the visa revocations, a lot of panic has been created because every day we're hearing, stories of X amount of students having their visas revoked. So, what is the ground reality? What is happening there? What are the reasons behind these revocations? Can we generalize these revocations? Just your 2 cents on this matter.
So, what we have been seeing now is that there have been a set of new policies that the United States has introduced. One of them, their citizenship and immigration services will now consider anti-Semitic social media posts as a means of reviewing immigration applications, student applications, which means that any sort of post deemed anti-Semitic, according to the United States government, will be under scrutiny and will have a dire impact on one's student applications. Furthermore, there have been also cases of deportation due to links to the participation in pro-Palestine protests, as well as a general deportation program that the Trump administration has been undergoing, in which they have been deporting students over minor issues such as a DUI or a speeding ticket, which were years ago. So you're seeing a lot of them come back into the present day and being used as a means of canceling student visas or revoking services charges, etc. Additionally, we have also seen that many exchange programs have been suspended that were under the State Department's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, in which we also had our global undergraduate exchange program for Pakistani students, which allowed Pakistani students to go abroad for a semester and study in the United States. These recent developments have also brought into light the possibility of cancellation of the Fulbright scholarship. Now, despite there being, confirmation from the IIE that there will not be from the U.S. Educational Foundation in Pakistan, that there will not be any revocation of the Fulbright scholarship. These rumors came into about because of the downsizing of the Institute of International Education, which administers these Fulbright scholarship. Furthermore, many of the living stipends that are issued to students who are on these scholarships have been halted due to the lack of by the pause in the funding by the State Department. Also, we have seen under recent times that the US State Department or the government in general has also been considering the end of the OPT program, which allows or enables students to work in the United States for up to a year or 3 years if your degree is a STEM related one. With regards to the deportation cases, some of the prominent ones we have seen in recent times include not Pakistani students, in fact, students of different nationalities, such as Lebanon or Turkey. One prominent case was that of a Colombia student, Mahmoud Khalil, who was arrested because of his activism in the pro-Palestine movement, as well as the fact that he was a green card holder. So he is currently under detention or detainment by the ICE, and his citizenship could be revoked, his green card residency could be revoked as well, along with his student residency. We also have a case of Romesa Öztürk, which is a Turkish national who was recently detained due to a participation in the pro-Palestine movement. And as mentioned earlier, there were also convictions due to minor charges, such as a DUI of a particular Turkish student called Dogukan Gunedin. So he's another student who is currently enrolled in the United States and is also in having his student visa revoked due to a minor charge that happened in 2023. So these samples are an indication of the fact that students from all across the world are being targeted, and there isn't as much of a coherent strategy, even though you do see certain themes at play, such as the targeting of students who took part in pro-Palestine protests, but you also are seeing students with minor charges or even no charges at all being, targeted unfairly
Okay,
as part
so
of a mass deportation program by the Trump administration.
right. So just to summarize all of this, for students who have just joined us, and also, in layman's terms, you're basically saying that there is no generalization. There's no generalization or generalizing statement that we can give pertaining to these revocations not being targeted for any one particular country, right? It's happening irrespective of nationalities.
It is happening across the board, exactly, and it's not pertaining to any particular nationality
Okay.
or particular country.
Okay. And you had mentioned that the Department of Homeland and Security is looking towards certain recommendations, that they want to bring in for future F1 visa applicants. So if very briefly, if you can just, in a point or 2 points, just highlight upon those changes that could, again, the key word here is could be put into play.
So, one of them is the possible ending of the OPT program. So, optional practical training program, which allows students to work for up to a year in the United States and up to 3 years if you have graduated with a STEM degree. So, this visa acts as a gateway for many students to seek employment in the United States to achieve their career goals and ambitions. So, the revocation of such a program can halt a lot of students' plans or ambitions or aspirations of coming to the United States for studies, because that avenue for seeking job or employment also becomes null and void if this program or this sort of law comes into place.
Right. Okay. So again, important to note here for all the listeners is that the OPT is still valid. It's still there. No cancellation of OPT has taken place as of right now. There's no law that has been passed as of right now that, international students cannot get their OPT. This is something that the Department of Homeland and Security is considering doing. So this is not something that has been implemented as of yet. That's correct, right, Shirzian?
Yes.
Okay.
As of now, the OPT is still in place.
All right. Thank you so much. And I hope that, the information presented by our team, was of use to all of you who were listening in. And we, hopefully address some of the persistent concerns or, issues that students or potential students had about the US market. And we hope that this was an informative session. And before we wrap this up, Dania, because you've been monitoring the live feed, if there are any questions that have come in, please do share it here, and we'd be more than happy to, address those questions.
So we have received a few questions. A lot of them are around similar topics, so I'll just combine them. So the first one is, has the US banned students from Pakistan to get an F1 visa?
No, there is no ban on Pakistani students from getting an F1 visa. If you have your I-20, you're eligible to file your visa. There is no ban.
Next we have, what is the visa approval percentage for Pakistani students?
Okay. As of January 2025, those students who went for the spring 2025 intake, the visa acceptance rate for the US was somewhere in the mid-80s, which was very high. As of right now, students who are planning on going for the fall 2025 intake, we have to see what the impact has been, and that would be evident somewhere around June, July. So I can't give a number right now as to what the current visa acceptance or rejection rate is. But as of January, the acceptance rate was in the mid-80s. We are hoping that, that sustains for the fall 2025 intake. But again, it's too early to say right now. what the visa ratio would be for the fall intake.
Number third, is the US still offering post-study work visa?
Yes, as Shazian had just mentioned, the Department of Homeland and Security is considering canceling the OPT in the future, but it's not been implemented as of right now. There's no law that has been passed. So as of today, 15th April 2025, all international students are eligible for their minimum 1 year if it's a non-STEM degree and a maximum of 3 years if it's a STEM degree OPT.
Next, we have, can I still apply to a US university for the September 2025 intake?
Yes, there is still time. A lot of universities are still open that are not only accepting students but also offering scholarships. So if you are interested, get in touch with one of our team members and we'll be more than happy to sort it out for you.
Okay, now last one. Which destination would you recommend as an alternate to US?
Oh, okay. With regards to an alternative destination, I would honestly say then the UK would come into play because the two best educational destinations in the world and the most popular ones are the US and UK. So if you are looking for an alternative to the US based on what has been happening with regards to President Trump and his policies, and if you are a bit skeptical, about securing a visa for the fall 2025 intake, then the next best alternative obviously would be the UK. So UK allows you, greater time with regards to starting your intake. The US intake starts roughly around third week of August. UK starts around the third week of September. Your visa process will commence around mid to end of August, whereas in the US, you would have to file your visa somewhere around mid-June to mid-July. So yeah, the UK would serve as an ideal alternative for anyone who's interested to the US.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. That's
No
it for
worries.
now.
Thank you everyone for participating and listening in to today's webinar. We hope that this was informative. We hope that the information shared would have eased some of your concerns. And if you still have any questions or queries, we're more than happy to address them. Get in touch with us, with any of our team members, and we can look after your case and we can handle your queries accordingly. So thank you once again. Thank you everyone for all your valuable input in today's webinar. And good luck to everyone who is looking to embark on their educational journey in fall 2025. Remember, it's your future, you decide. Take care. Allah Hafiz.